His Michelin star was built on my 3 a.m. experiments. Now everyone knows it, and I have my own restaurant. Original post. I'm watching my former mentor on television right now. He's standing at a podium in a custom-tailored chef's coat, accepting a prestigious culinary award for his signature dish, a deconstructed bouillabaisse with saffron foam and a shellfish essence that takes 14 hours to prepare. I created that dish. I created it at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, after working a 16-hour shift, while he was at home sleeping. I remember the exact moment the idea crystallized. I was cleaning the walk-in cooler, exhausted, and I noticed how the light caught the edge of a mussel shell. Something clicked. I spent the next 6 weeks perfecting the technique, the ratios, the presentation. When I finally served it to him, his eyes lit up in a way I'd never seen before. "This," he said, "this is going to change everything." He was right. It did change everything. Just not for me. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. I need to tell you this story because I don't know what else to do. I've been silent for 8 months, and the silence is crushing me. Maybe writing it out will help me figure out my next move. Maybe you'll tell me I'm the one who's wrong here. At this point, I genuinely don't know anymore. The beginning, 6 years ago. I was 22 when I walked into his kitchen as an unpaid intern. Fresh out of culinary school, drowning in student debt, and so desperate to learn from a real chef that I would have done almost anything for the opportunity. And he was brilliant. I need you to understand that before anything else, he was genuinely, undeniably brilliant. The way he moved through the kitchen was like watching someone conduct an orchestra. He could taste a sauce and identify exactly which ingredient was half a gram off. He understood flavor the way some people understand mathematics. More importantly, he saw something in me. "You've got instincts," he told me during my second week. "Most culinary school graduates cook with their heads. You cook with your gut. That's rare." He took me under his wing. While other interns were relegated to peeling potatoes and washing dishes, he let me shadow him during service. He explained his reasoning, his philosophy, his approach to building a dish from concept to plate. He introduced me to vendors, taught me how to select produce, showed me the business side of running a restaurant. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. When I was promoted from intern to line cook after 3 months, I cried in the walk-in. When he made me sous chef 2 years later, I called my mother and told her that everything was finally coming together. He came to my birthday dinner. He wrote me a recommendation letter for a James Beard scholarship I didn't get. When my grandmother died, he gave me a week off, paid, even though the restaurant was slammed. He wasn't a monster. That's what makes this so complicated. Monsters are easy to hate. He was a man who did real, meaningful things for me, who shaped my career in ways I'll never be able to fully repay. And he was also a man who systematically took credit for my creative work while convincing me it was normal. The dynamic. The first time it happened, I didn't even notice. I'd been playing around with a dish at home, a duck confit with a cherry gastrique and a surprising element of black pepper that cut through the richness. I brought it to him, nervous, wanting his opinion. He tasted it. He closed his eyes. He nodded slowly. "This is going on the menu," he said. "Tomorrow. I'll present it during the staff meeting." I was thrilled. My dish. On the menu. When tomorrow came, he introduced it as my new creation, inspired by a recent trip to Lyon. I was standing right there. He didn't look at me once. I told myself he meant my, as in my kitchen. I told myself it was a team effort. I told myself that in professional kitchens, the head chef gets credit for everything. That's just how the industry works. The mentor-mentee relationship operates on different rules. And here's the thing, I wasn't wrong. Not entirely. There is a tradition in high-end kitchens where the executive chef takes credit for the menu. The chef's name is on the door. The chef bears the responsibility if something fails. In that context, it made a certain kind of sense. But it happened again. And again. And again. Over 6 years, I created 12 signature dishes that became the restaurant's identity. The black sesame miso cod. The lavender honey lamb with preserved lemon. The coffee-rubbed short rib that food critics called transcendent. And yes, the tasting menu that earned the restaurant its Michelin star. All 7 courses. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. He would take my concepts and present them at industry events. He would discuss his creative process in interviews. When food magazines came to do profiles, I would cook the dishes while he posed for photos. When the Michelin inspectors visited, I ran the kitchen while he glad-handed at tables. I told myself I was learning. I told myself my time would come. I told myself that when I eventually opened my own restaurant, I would have this incredible foundation of experience. I was patient. I was grateful. I was stupid. The breaking point. Last year, he announced he was opening a second restaurant. A larger space, more ambitious menu, higher profile location. He needed an executive chef to run it while he oversaw both operations. I had given him 6 years. 6 years of my creativity, my labor, my nights and weekends and holidays. 6 years of watching him take credit while I bit my tongue. I had earned this. I asked for a meeting. I prepared my case carefully. Revenue numbers, critical reviews of dishes I'd created, a proposal for how I'd run the new location. I rehearsed in the mirror. I wore my best chef's coat. I want to run the new restaurant, I told him. I've earned it. And I want my name on the dishes I've created. Co-credit, at least. Something that acknowledges my contribution. The silence lasted maybe 5 seconds. It felt like 5 minutes. His face changed. Not angry, something colder than anger. Disappointed, almost. Like I'd broken some unspoken rule. The dishes you've created, he repeated. In my kitchen. With my training. Using techniques I taught you. Yes, I said. My recipes. My ideas. You wouldn't have a Michelin star without. Careful, he said. Be very careful what you say next. I should have been careful. I should have backed down, apologized, kept my head low. But 6 years of swallowed pride came rushing up at once. It's the truth, I said. And everyone in that kitchen knows it. He called me replaceable. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. He stood up. He smoothed his coat. He looked at me like I was a stranger who'd wandered in off the street. I think we're done here, he said. You can pick up your final check on Friday. Don't come back to my kitchen. Just like that. 6 years, ended in 30 seconds. The aftermath. I thought I could recover quickly. I had an impressive resume, sous chef at a Michelin-starred restaurant, 6 years of experience at the highest level. I knew people. I had connections. I didn't understand how powerful he really was. Within 2 weeks, I realized I'd been blacklisted. Restaurants that had seemed interested suddenly went cold. Calls weren't returned. Interviews were cancelled. One chef I'd known for years finally told me the truth over drinks. He's telling everyone you're unstable. That you tried to sabotage the kitchen when you left. I don't believe it, but I can't hire you. I'm sorry. I can't afford to make an enemy of him. Every door in the city closed. He had spent 2 decades building relationships, investing in people, creating a network of loyalty and obligation. I had spent 6 years hiding in his shadow. I had no connections of my own. All my connections were through him. I took a job at a catering company, doing corporate events and wedding buffets. It paid the bills. It killed my soul a little bit every day. I came home at night and cooked elaborate meals for myself, just to remember what it felt like to create something. I watched his restaurant continue to succeed. I watched the second location open to rave reviews, staffed by a new executive chef who, I later learned, quit after 4 months due to creative differences. I watched him give interviews about his artistic vision and his commitment to innovation. I watched him accept awards for my work. 8 months of this. 8 months of silence and catering jobs and bitterness that I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. 8 months of asking myself if I'd made a mistake, if I should have just kept quiet, if I was the unreasonable one. Then a friend called with an opportunity. Update 1. The pop-up. A small brewery on the east side of the city had a kitchen they weren't using. The owner was looking for someone to do occasional pop-up dinners, nothing permanent, just weekend events, bring your own concept. The pay was minimal, but I'd have complete creative control. I almost said no. What was the point? I was a disgraced sous chef working wedding buffets. Who would care about my cooking now? But something in me couldn't let go. Some stubborn, idiotic part of my brain that still believed I had something to offer. I said yes. The first dinner was 12 seats. I did everything myself. Prep, cooking, plating, service. I charged $40 a person, which barely covered costs. I created a completely new menu, dishes I'd been dreaming about for months but never had the chance to make. Things that were mine and only mine. 11 people showed up. 1 didn't. But those 11 people, they understood. I could see it in their faces when they took the first bite. That spark of recognition when food transcends fuel and becomes something else. I did it again the next weekend. 20 seats this time, all full. Then 30. Then 40. I wasn't advertising. I wasn't on social media. But word was spreading through channels I couldn't track. People were talking. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. Update 2. The discovery. It happened 3 months into the pop-up's run. A food blogger came to dinner. I didn't recognize her, didn't know who she was. She ordered the tasting menu and ate in focused silence, taking notes between courses. After service, she asked to speak with me. She was direct, almost blunt. "I've eaten at your former mentor's restaurant multiple times," she said. "The Michelin-starred one. I've had his signature dishes. The black sesame miso cod. The deconstructed bouillabaisse. The coffee short rib." My stomach dropped. I thought she was going to accuse me of stealing from him. "What you served tonight," she continued, "it's the same foundation, the same sensibility, but evolved, refined. Like hearing a musician play their own compositions after someone else has been covering them badly for years." She paused. "Those aren't his dishes, are they? They're yours." I didn't know what to say. I'd been so careful not to badmouth him publicly, not to make accusations I couldn't prove. I was terrified of giving him more ammunition to use against me. "I can't comment on that," I said finally. "I worked in his kitchen for 6 years. Obviously there's influence." She nodded slowly. "I'm going to write about tonight's dinner. Just the food, nothing else. But I'm also going to do some research. Because something here doesn't add up, and I think the truth deserves to come out." Her review went up 2 days later. She called my pop-up a revelation, and the most exciting new voice in the city's dining scene. She didn't mention him at all. But the review went viral. Suddenly, I couldn't accommodate demand. People were showing up without reservations, begging for a seat. Other food writers came, then local journalists, then a photographer from a national food magazine. And they all noticed the same thing. My food had a distinctive voice that seemed strangely familiar. A voice they'd heard before, at a certain Michelin-starred restaurant across town. Questions started being asked. Update 3. The investigation. The blogger who'd first noticed the connection wasn't satisfied with just reviewing my food. She started digging. She reached out to former employees of his restaurant, line cooks, prep staff, front-of-house workers who'd moved on to other jobs. She found people who'd worked alongside me during those 6 years. She asked them about the kitchen's creative process, about how dishes were developed, about who contributed what. What she found wasn't surprising to me. But it was surprising to everyone else. The stories were consistent. I had developed the recipes. I had run the experimental tastings. I had documented the techniques. Multiple former colleagues remembered specific moments. The night I created the bouillabaisse, the weekend I perfected the miso cod glaze, the month I spent developing the tasting menu that earned the star. One former line cook had photos, time-stamped photos of recipe development notes in my handwriting. Another had text messages from years ago, complaining to a friend about how the head chef always takes credit for everything she creates. The blogger didn't accuse anyone of anything directly. She just published a long-form piece titled, "Who Really Created the Dishes at Restaurant Name?" It laid out the evidence and let readers draw their own conclusions. The conclusions were not kind to my former mentor. Update 4. The unraveling. The story got picked up by larger publications. Then by industry trade magazines. Then by the general media. A narrative formed. Famous chef exploits young female protégé, takes credit for her work, fires her when she asks for recognition. He tried to fight back. He gave interviews denying everything. He claimed the blogger was biased, that disgruntled former employees were unreliable witnesses, that I was a talented cook but nothing more. He talked about the collaborative nature of professional kitchens and the unfortunate misunderstandings that can arise. But the evidence was too strong. And worse for him, other women started coming forward. Not with accusations of credit theft, but with stories of similar patterns. Careers cut short, contributions minimized, credit redirected. The narrative expanded beyond me. The Michelin Guide announced it was reviewing the star designation, citing concerns about the integrity of the creative process. This wasn't an official decision yet, just a statement that they were looking into it. But in the industry, that kind of statement is devastating. His second restaurant's opening was delayed indefinitely. Investors got nervous. Business at the original location dropped by 30% as customers who'd once lined up for reservations suddenly discovered other options. He called me once. Left a voicemail. His voice was strange, part angry, part pleading, part something I couldn't identify. He said I was destroying everything we'd built together. He said I was being vindictive. He said he'd given me opportunities no one else would have. He wasn't entirely wrong about that last part. He had given me opportunities. He had taught me things. For a long time, he had been the most important person in my professional life. But he'd also stolen from me. And when I asked for even partial recognition of what I'd contributed, he tried to destroy me. I didn't call him back. Update 5. The Transcendence. It's been 4 months since the story broke. I'm writing this from the prep kitchen of my new restaurant, a real restaurant, not a pop-up, in a space that used to be a flower shop. We open in 6 weeks. The funding came from an investor group that specializes in supporting emerging chefs, particularly women who've been pushed out of male-dominated kitchens. They reached out to me after the story got national attention. The terms are fair. The creative control is entirely mine. My former mentor's restaurant lost its Michelin star last month. The official statement was diplomatic, something about evolving standards and reassessment of the dining landscape, but everyone understood what it really meant. His reputation has been permanently tarnished. The industry that once celebrated him now treats him as a cautionary tale. Part of me expected to feel satisfied by this. Vindicated. Triumphant. I don't, really. I feel something more complicated, a kind of tired relief, mixed with sadness for what could have been. Here's what I've realized over these past few months. I don't want to be defined by what he stole from me. I don't want my career to be a response to his betrayal. I don't want every interview to be about him, every profile to center on this conflict, every review to mention the controversy. The dishes I created in his kitchen, the bouillabaisse, the miso cod, the coffee short rib, they're good. I'm proud of them. But they're not my best work. They were created under constraints, developed within someone else's vision, shaped by a relationship that was, I now understand, fundamentally exploitative. The food I'm creating now is different. Freer. More fully me. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. But I'm not erasing myself anymore. I'm building something new. The old dishes that made him famous are already starting to feel like early work compared to what I'm doing now. Critics who've tasted my new menu describe it as a creative leap forward and evidence of a fully realized artistic vision. One writer said it's like the difference between a cover band and the original artist finally stepping into the spotlight. Meanwhile, he's stuck. He's defended those dishes for so long as his own creation that he can't abandon them, but he also can't evolve them, because he never understood them in the first place. He's become a curator of work he didn't create, unable to move forward, unable to let go. I don't know what his future holds. Maybe he'll recover. Maybe he'll find a way to reinvent himself. Maybe he'll quietly fade from the spotlight and open a consulting firm or write a cookbook about lessons learned. I genuinely hope he finds peace, eventually. Not because he deserves it, I'm not that enlightened, but because I don't want to carry resentment forever. It's too heavy. It takes up space that I need for other things. Final reflection. A journalist asked me last week if I felt vindicated. If this outcome was what I'd hoped for when the story first broke. I thought about it for a while before answering. I didn't want revenge, I said finally. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. That's the honest truth. I never set out to expose him or destroy his career. I just wanted to make food that mattered, food that was mine, food that I could be proud of without seeing his name attached to it. The exposure happened because I couldn't hide my own voice. It came through in every dish, and people recognized it. He called me replaceable. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. I'm 28 years old. I'm about to open my own restaurant. I have decades of cooking ahead of me, decades of creativity and growth and evolution. The dishes that made him famous, my dishes, will eventually be footnotes in my career, early experiments that led to better things. He's 53. His reputation is permanently damaged. The work he's most known for belongs to someone else, and everyone knows it now. He can never escape that. In a strange way, we're both free now. He's free from the burden of pretending. I'm free from the burden of being pretended about. Last night, after a 16-hour prep day, I stayed late in the kitchen working on a new dish. It's not ready yet, the balance is off, the technique needs refinement, the presentation hasn't clicked. But there's something there. Something I can't quite articulate yet, something that exists in the space between the ingredients. I was alone in the kitchen at 3 a.m., exhausted, my hands smelling like citrus and smoke, and I realized I was happy. Not vindicated happy or revenge happy, but something simpler and more durable. The happiness of doing what I was meant to do. The happiness of finally being seen. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. But these new dishes, the ones I'm creating now, in my own kitchen, under my own name, these fingerprints will never be painted over. These are mine forever. The restaurant opens in 6 weeks. I'll let you know how it goes. Edit. Wow, I did not expect this response. Thank you for all the supportive messages. To answer some common questions. Yes, I consulted lawyers. The legal situation around recipe ownership in professional kitchens is complicated. Recipes themselves aren't copyrightable, but the documentation of my creative process was important for establishing the truth. Oh, I'm not going to sue him. It would cost more than I'd recover, and honestly, I just want to move forward. The pop-up is still running every weekend until the restaurant opens. If you want a reservation, the information is on my newly created website. For those asking about the new dishes, come try them. That's the best way I can explain what I'm doing now. Thank you again for reading this. Sometimes you just need to tell your story to strangers to remember that you're not crazy. Final update, 3 months later. We opened 2 weeks ago. 60 seats. Fully booked for the next 3 months. The reviews have been kinder than I probably deserve for a first independent restaurant. But here's what matters more to me than the reviews. Every night, I see people take their first bite and go quiet. That specific silence. The one that means something has connected. I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life. I'm sleeping 4 hours a night. I've lost weight I can't afford to lose. My hands are covered in burns and cuts. I'm terrified every single day that something will go wrong. And I've never been happier. My former mentor's original restaurant closed last month. He released a statement about pursuing new opportunities and the natural evolution of the hospitality industry. I don't know what happened to his staff. I hope they landed somewhere good. I heard he's working on a cookbook, a memoir of his career. I wonder how he'll tell the story. I wonder if he's found a way to make himself the hero. But you know what? I don't really think about him much anymore. I'm too busy creating new things. Better things. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. But now I'm the one who's awake at 3 a.m. And the dishes I'm creating are mine. Just mine. NTA, by the way. In case anyone was still wondering. Here's what I learned from having my work stolen for 6 years. Talent has a voice that can't be silenced forever. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. Every dish I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping became his creation by morning. I told myself that's how kitchens work. The head chef's name is on the door. The head chef takes the credit. It's tradition. It's how the industry operates. But there's a difference between tradition and theft. Tradition is a chef putting their name on a collaborative menu. Theft is looking your protege in the eye and saying, "These are my creations," when you know that she invented them while you were home in bed. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. When I finally asked for recognition, not ownership, just acknowledgement, he called me replaceable. Fired me in 30 seconds. Blacklisted me across the industry. Tried to erase me entirely. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. I opened a tiny pop-up because I couldn't stop creating. 12 seats. Then 20. Then 40. Word spread. Food bloggers came. And they noticed something strange. My dishes had a voice they recognized. A voice they'd heard before, at his Michelin-starred restaurant. The truth came out not because I exposed him, but because I couldn't hide my own voice. It came through in every dish. People recognized it. The same sensibility. The same fingerprints. Just evolved. Refined. Like hearing a musician finally play their own compositions after someone else has been covering them badly for years. He's stuck now. He defended those dishes as his own for so long that he can't abandon them. But he can't evolve them either, because he never understood them in the first place. He's become a curator of work he didn't create, unable to move forward, unable to let go. His restaurant lost its Michelin star. His second location never opened. His reputation is permanently tarnished. I'm 28. I just opened my own restaurant. 60 seats. Booked for 3 months. Working harder than I've ever worked. Sleeping 4 hours a night. Terrified every day. And I've never been happier. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. But now I'm the one who's awake at 3 a.m. And the dishes I'm creating are mine. Just mine. He gave me opportunities. He taught me things. For a long time, he was the most important person in my professional life. But he also stole from me. And when I asked for even partial recognition, he tried to destroy me. I hope he finds peace eventually. Not because he deserves it, I'm not that enlightened, but because I don't want to carry resentment forever. It's too heavy. It takes up space I need for other things. The old dishes that made him famous are already starting to feel like early work compared to what I'm doing now. Critics call it a creative leap forward. One writer said it's like the difference between a cover band and the original artist finally stepping into the spotlight. I'm not defined by what he stole anymore. I'm defined by what I'm creating. And no one will ever paint over my name again.